Hi, this is Nancy Love. I would like to say a couple of things today that are related. And First, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about the Return to Innocence, which is a science fiction book and screenplay that I'm preparing in the near future. Now, this treatise has to do with a context in which humanity, an attendant species on another planet, has been enslaved by something called a game. And It's very, very much like having been unwillingly recruited into a gang or the mafia. To be brought into the game means that you're asked something called protection questions, and these questions are unholy and unnatural and immoral. You're asked to choose between the lives of individuals who deserve and want their own lives, and basically it sucks. So, in this context, there's a person who decides that she is not going to be brought in, and individuals who know more about it than she does because she never even acknowledges all the training. There are certain ways of certain vernaculars that you have to learn, certain ways of speaking and not speaking. For example, in the game, you're not supposed to use the word friend unless you would die for the person. You're not supposed to use the word beautiful or love, because if you say that someone is beautiful or that you love them, then the game tries to take that away from you, that person or that individual, if it's a pet or whatever. So she uses words like friend and love and beauty, and she doesn't care about the damn vernacular because, after all, she is a hero, right? And courage is courage, regardless of what context it occurs in or what planet it occurs on. So, this person recruits others, and others are very, very willing to jump on board. It's like they're in a sinking ship, and she offers this big rowboat toward that's headed toward freedom. So everybody wants on that robot, believe me. Um, People stop playing the game. It's called unanimity. And people who stop playing the game and go after what's called the willful perpetuators. The willful perpetuators are usually older people, definitely rich people, always people who perceive themselves as having profited either through fame, wealth, or both from having played the game. And they only think that until the game comes around and enough people don't choose their life to go on, and then they end up dead as a doornail. And then they go, wow, the game isn't all that profitable after all, is it? Because eventually you get yours. If you play the game willingly and you are a willful perpetuator who asks the protection questions, would you choose this life instead of that life? Because believe me, no one has the right to make that choice. And no one has the right to ask you that question in this fictional context. The willful perpetuators become very unpopular and, in fact, are hunted. You ask a protection question, members of the resistance will hunt you down. It's pretty cool. And One of the things that occurs, and here's where I'm coming at with the relationship to COVID-19, is that members of the resistance decide that they're not going to bring anybody else into this world. As a point of courage, as a point of honor, members of the resistance do not breed on purpose. Everybody loves babies and children, and members of the resistance are certainly no exception to that. So if accidentally uh, planning their family or planning not to have a family fails and the baby gets started, then the baby is loved, cherished, and prospered. But for the most part, Members of the resistance refuse to breed in captivity. Members of the resistance will not bring yet another victim into the game. And there's a saying among them. They say, if you love children, don't have any. If you love children, don't have any. So that's where it comes around. That's where the science fiction concept that I've got going comes around to COVID-19. Some people have thought that, I've actually heard people in their 30s and 40s say, oh, well, COVID doesn't bother them because only the older people are dying. Well, if you stick and stay and you keep showing up and you keep waking up every day of your life, eventually you too will be older. So the fact that a disease hits, actually kills people who are a bit older than you are doesn't mean that it's not important. The fact that it's killing older people basically means that it's killing people in our society that have more experience, hopefully, but not necessarily more wisdom, have more knowledge. Um, Older people are the people in our society that have often greater value to the group as a whole than younger, less experienced, less well-educated people. And that's pretty courageous of me to say. But older people matter as much as younger people. I can practically hear the applause from those of you in your 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. Now, the thing is, COVID-19 has killed youngsters. I have sat here and cried my eyes out reading stories about a 5-year-old girl or a 7-year-old boy, or just some little bitty kid who barely got started and has only had a few trips around the sun. Dead of an inflamed heart. COVID-19 apparently induces Kawasaki Syndrome. Keep in mind, a syndrome is not necessarily a disease in itself. It describes a cluster of symptoms that tend to co-occur. And Kawasaki Syndrome affects the arterial functioning of young people and causes inflamed hearts in kids who are perfectly healthy before they develop that syndrome. I don't really think that humanity has ever dealt with a disease like COVID-19, which has so many multivarious symptoms and has so many different ways of attaching to ACE inhibitors, and it affects the cilia in the lungs so that the lungs can't even clean themselves, and it